بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I read out Hazrat Amir's message for the Eid service, which had started with chapter 2, verse 183, that fasting is prescribed for Muslims so that they may attain taqwa. And people translate taqwa as in different ways. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. People translate taqwa in different ways. Some people say so that you may develop God consciousness. Other people say so that you may fear Allah, etc. But taqwa means, as Hazrat Amir explained, that I think it was Hazrat Umar Razillah Ta'ala who asked Hazrat Ibn Abbas, what is taqwa? And Hazrat Ibn Abbas said that if you are walking along a narrow path and there are thorny bushes on both sides, what will you do? And Hazrat Umar said, well, I'll wrap my garments, my protection around me to protect my clothes and myself from getting entangled in the thorny bushes. So Hazrat Ibn Abbas said, well, that is taqwa. And that is that you protect yourself from things that might entice you. And there are three parts of this. One is a purely physical one. And that is that you starve your body to try and get rid of everything that you have accumulated. The fat and the sugar and the salt and so on. Because we generally tend to overeat. And the result is that any excess sugars and fats and carbohydrates and so on, they accumulate in our body. For example, the arteries taking blood to our legs or the arteries of our heart, most commonly, fat deposits build in those arteries, clogging them. And then a doctor has to cut your chest open with a saw and gain access to those arteries. Or nowadays, they've got other techniques as well. And either clear them out or put a bypass around the blocked part so that your heart can have proper blood flow. So that's a physical benefit. But the point is, you will only gain that physical benefit if, although you go hungry during the day, but during Sehri, during the morning, you stuff yourself with 4 times the food that you would normally eat. And there are people who have, start their day during Ramadan with 4 parathas and roast chicken and God knows what else. I mean, it's okay if you drink a little more in the morning because you're not going to be able to drink anything through the day. And the same thing happens in the evening. That people break their fast and then they quickly say their Maghrib prayer and then they have an absolutely huge meal, which actually defeats the object of having fasted during the day. And another interesting thing is that lots of people, these days, certainly in the West, lots of people break their fast in the mosque and so on. And what happens is the mosque hall is full, azan is called, they eat one date, and then the hall empties on the men's side anyway. Why? Because 90% of them are standing outside on the pavement, and what are they doing? They're smoking. So basically, all the benefit that you had of not smoking during the day, you just lost it. Because one objective of fasting is to break your addiction, to break your dependence on things of this world so that you depend only on Allah. I went to see my GP and he said, well, you're a bit overweight. And I said, that's okay. Ramadan is coming, I'll fast and I'll lose the excess fat, the excess weight. And the GP laughed. And he said, you know something, Mr. Aziz? All the Muslims who come to me after Ramadan, they've gained weight. Sometimes in 1 month, they put on 1 stone. But this verse tells us that, so that we may attain to taqwa, observe taqwa, which is to protect ourselves from the harmful effects of everything around us. But physically, we've done just that. If we put on weight, if our blood sugar level has increased, if our blood pressure has gone up, so why did we fast? We didn't attain much physical benefit from it, which is one of the things we're supposed to do. The things that we are supposed to protect. One of them is our body. Go back to the example. Hazrat Ibn Abbas said that if you're walking along a narrow path with thorny bushes on each side, what do? You wrap your clothing around you, protective clothing around your body to protect it. So this fasting is supposed to protect your body, and one way is to protect it physically, and you haven't done that. And in many countries now, I was talking to someone who has a restaurant, and I said, well, in Ramadan you must make a loss, because there are not a lot of people, who come and eat during the day. And he said, no, in Ramadan we make a lot of profit. And I said, how? And he said, because people throw sehri parties and they throw aftari parties. And at each huge number of dishes are served and so on. The second objective of fasting is to develop you morally. And that is that if in the normal course of events, if you're short-tempered or angry or whatever, that you treat people with politeness and with respect. There is a saying of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if you're fasting and someone comes and he's rude to you, walk away from him saying, excuse me, friend, excuse me, brother, I won't engage in this altercation with you. Why? Because I'm fasting. I'm not going to resort to abuse and all this kind. But the strange thing is that, you go to an office and, someone treats you rudely and you're upset. What do people say? Never mind, he's fasting. This is why he's short-tempered. This is why he's rude. But the whole point of fasting is that when you're going through a difficulty, then you still maintain the right moral path, the right moral code. And you practice that. You're supposed to practice that throughout the month. You go without food and so on, but maintain your demeanor. So at some other time in the year, if you're short of something, I don't know, short of money, short of computer games, not have a Switch or an iPad, you don't get upset and angry, you still maintain your nice demeanor. But if you don't learn that, if you don't even practice that during Ramadan, what have you learned? In other words, another way of putting that is that your treatment of other people must be nice. During Ramadan, you must go out of your way to be polite to people and help them and so on and so forth, and not be rude to them and then, use as an excuse, oh, he's fasting, so he's short-tempered and so on. And of course, the third thing is that it's supposed to create a connection between you and Allah. And if you haven't protected your own body, if you haven't developed yourself morally, and that includes everything, being honest, doing your duty, speaking the truth, etc., helping people. I mean, we talk about charity, giving charity in Ramadan. And the Holy Prophet said, if you're walking along a path and you see a stone and someone might trip over it, if you take the trouble of moving it out of the way, that is also charity. Any action that you do which does others good. And what do people do? We are supposed to give our annual zakat and fitrana. What do people do? They're rushing in, and the Imam is saying the takbeers for the Eid namaz, the Eid salat, and they're saying, quick, take my fitrana, take my zakat. So that the rule that it is paid before Eid is fulfilled. And then when you ask, what's the purpose? They say, oh, well, so that the poor people can join in with others in enjoying Eid. How are those poor people going to get that money and join in if you haven't paid it until just before the Salat is started? It really should be paid before Ramadan so that it can be distributed to people, so that to the needy people, so that they too can buy new clothes and so on for Eid. But I've seen people rush in, and the Imam is standing and he's going to say takbeers, and they're saying, quick, take my zakat, take my fitrana. It has to be paid before the Eid namaz. You see, what has happened is that in all our devotions and so on, this was what Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, the promised Messiah, said, that, we concentrate so much on paying lip service and sort of mechanical, how shall I say, making sure that the mechanics of things are correctly done, that we forget the moral and spiritual lessons that we are supposed to learn from these things. So if that is your attitude, how would you develop closeness to Allah? And as I pointed out to someone, and in fact, when I read out Hazrat Amir's address, and again, just now, I started with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. God is Rahman and Rahim. There's no mention of Islam or Muslims or anything. What's Rahman? It's a being that does good to people regardless, without their deserving it. And God does this. Clean air and water and food and fruit trees and beauty and intelligence and so on. God doesn't say he's a Christian, I'm not going to make him intelligent. He's a Hindu, I'm not going to make him handsome. He bestows these things on everyone without their deserving them. And Rahim is that if we make a mistake and we realize that mistake and we turn to him in repentance and ask for forgiveness sincerely, he then forgives people. Now, the other side of that is if God does that to us, we should be doing the same thing to each other. A young person qualified as a medical doctor and went to the Prophet Messiah and he said, "Sir, can you please give me some advice about how I should conduct my professional life?" And Rasab gave a wonderful reply. He said, when there's someone sitting in front of you, never let the thought of the man's religion or his sect or his nationality or his caste or creed enter your head. Thank Allah that he has put a skill in your hands that you can use to relieve the pain and distress and difficulty of a human being. And that is how you should conduct yourself. And that is how you should conduct yourself in every profession, in any walk of life. My mother, when we moved and she went to a new school in Langley near Slough, on the first day, one of her students told me, the first day she came in and she said that I am your mother during school hours. And a mother doesn't differentiate between her children. So, as far as I'm concerned, in this class, there are no Hindus and there are no Muslims and there are no Sikhs and so on, only my children. So, if you behave well and so on, I'll deal with you nicely. If you misbehave, I will deal with you harshly. But it won't be because of your religion. And this is how we should be with human beings. On the day of judgment, God will ask me what I did. He wouldn't ask me what he did, or he did, or he did, or someone else did. He wouldn't ask me what Tony Blair did, or Imran Khan did, or President Bush did. He would say, what did you do? You answer for yourself. I'll ask them myself. And that is what we don't do. We judge people. We take over God's role. The Holy Quran, God tells the Holy Prophet Muhammad, why are you worried that they don't believe in the message? That's not your job. Your job is to deliver the message. You've done that, that's it. The rest is between me and them. I will ask them. And that's how it should be. That you treat a human being as a human being. If you can help them, help them. Do something nice, something good for them. Or at least don't do anything bad for them. And the other question I want to ask is that Ramadan has come to an end. Today is Eid. I ask those people who actually did benefit physically, morally, spiritually from Ramadan. But what are you going to do? Now slip back into your bad old habits? Go back to smoking and overeating and indulgence and whatever? This is going through like a school. 1 year you go to a class, you learn some things. And then you have an exam and you move into the next year. So what do? Do you forget what you learned the last year? If you do, then it's no good you sitting in the next year. You're not going to learn anything. No. You remember what you did last, what you learned last year, and you build on that and develop on that. So Eid is not the end of Ramadan. Eid is the beginning of continuing to observe the lessons, physical, moral, and spiritual, that we learned during one Ramadan and building on them until the next. So let us pray that God gives us the strength and the wisdom to do this. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jawadun kareemun malikun garrawfur rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم. عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. Is it ready? Yeah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya al-salah, hayya al-falah. Qad qamatis salat, qad qamatis salat. Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون دين الله في أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا لك الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, wallahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, wallahu Akbar, walillahil hamd.
Thank you for joining us for today's Friday service, which of course is, as we know, the day of Eid, although some people are celebrating it tomorrow, but that is fine if that's how they feel. I have no objection to that. And inshallah, we'll meet again next Friday. So I take my leave of you with the prayer that may Allah keep everyone, all humans, regardless of their religion, sect, color, creed, caste, safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.